Hello, and welcome to another Gnomon Industry live stream. My name is Chris. You may have seen me before. I'm glad to see you all here. Real quick, if you're looking for closed captioning, go ahead and head over to our YouTube or our Facebook page. We'll be able to help you out there. I'm excited that we're back, and I'm sure that you're all excited, but just in case you're excited, maybe this is your first time, maybe you've never seen us before, you're not really sure what's happening, why don't you stay up to date with us, follow, like, share. We're always doing awesome stuff that you're actually about to see right now. So it's really a great time to keep up to date with us and see everything that's happening. Next, we'd also like to thank our sponsors, Dell and NVIDIA. Without them, we wouldn't be able to bring you such amazing content as you're about to see right now. So just real quick, you might notice, we've done a couple of other streams. There's no longer a brick wall behind me. There's also not a bunch of figurines or anime pictures above me. But have no fear, all the weeb stuff and nerdy stuff is literally right over here. I'm still kind of figuring out how to do all of this in the background. And the reason why I bring that up is because we're at the new campus, everyone. I used to say, I wish you could see it. I used to say, oh my gosh, I can't wait for y'all to see it be done, and I can't wait for y'all to come, but now you can't. So you gotta book a tour, you gotta come see it. It's so cool, it really, really is. So I'm going to have my back wall reflect how cool the campus actually is. But until then, I'm trying to really hold in my excitement for today's stream, and I'm trying to be professional, but I'm gonna tell you all, we've been working really hard to try and get this stream to happen for a while now, and I'm really excited for our stream, the character creation in Baldur's Gate 3 with Larian Studios today. Just a quick side note, if you haven't played the game and you want to go into the game 100% blind, this might not be the stream for you. We're not really going to have massive spoilers or anything like that, nothing crazy, but there might be some names or some faces where you're like, who is that person? What's that? And so if you want to go in 100% blind, I understand that. But if that stuff doesn't really bug you, then hey, trudge onward. So second, I just wanted to say, I really love this game, but sometimes I feel like I might love it too much. So if you're in the chat and you played Act 1 for way longer than you were supposed to, if you could just let me know how many hours you were in Act 1, because I feel like I was in Act 1 for a long time. If you could just tell me how many hours you put in Act 1, that would make me feel a lot more comfortable, because I probably clocked, I'm just going to say it, anywhere between 50, 60. I got someone saying they put in 1,000 hours. I love y'all. See, this is why I love y'all, man. Y'all, I know this was the right place. 200 hours in Act 1, I appreciate it. So as some of you know, I'm a huge fan of Dungeons and Dragons, and if I were to teleport to my past self and tell them that I was going to be doing a stream today with Baldur's Gate and with the universe of Dungeons and Dragons and all that, for just a monumental, record-setting, award-winning, slightly spicy video game, I'd look at myself and say, well, Gate's a level 7 spell, so how did you teleport back in time in order to talk to me in the first place? But then next, my brain, I would just be blown away, right? Dungeons and Dragons was something that when I was growing up was like not the cool thing, and you were literally in a basement trying to hide people that you even played or knew how to play. It was kind of like a secret community. But now, I mean, especially again, seeing you all here and commenting as you're commenting in the chat, it just fills me with such happiness to even be able to be here and talk to a company that, or talk about a game that, won Game of the Year, won Best Multiplayer Game of the Year, won multiple game awards, won Player Voice Awards, won Best Community Support. I mean, if you're in the stream, you know how amazing this game is, you know how phenomenal it is, and then you also know how important the characters are. I mean, the characters breathe such life into this world that, to me personally, I had not seen before, right? There were a lot of games that were similar, or that would have, some characters that you'd be like, I really like that character, I like that character. Every single person you talk to in Baldur's Gate, they're going through something, they're real. And one of the ways that you can connect with them is just visually. I mean, they just look like sad when they're going through sad stuff. We've all played those video games where somebody's like, man, I just got robbed my whole house. And then the NPC animation's over and they're smiling and walking away. Baldur's Gate is not that way. They really paid attention to a lot of this detail. So I'm just really excited to be talking about all of this. Today, we're going to be sitting down with Larian, and they're going to be walking us through the details of sculpting heads, hairstyles, creation of armor, outfits, creatures, and each artist will share their personal journey and approach to balancing artistic freedom with their technical demands of the vast and complex game like Baldur's Gate 3. I'm done talking. I appreciate you all listening and hearing me rant for a second. Let's get ready to roll for initiative. Please help me welcome Larian Studios character art team. Oh, wait, this way.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi, guys.
Intro over again because I pointed the wrong direction. If we could just start from the top. No, I'm joking.
That's okay. We'll go.
It's so great to see y'all. I know that we've prepared a lot of stuff. And so I think I'm just going to leave it to y'all. And Alena, if you could, take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, for such a lovely introduction. And following up on your question about hours, do tell us how many hours in character creation have you spent, you know? That's what most interesting to us. But yeah, okay, no, Act 1 is totally legit as well. So let's maybe start with introductions so everyone knows who's who. Hello again, my name is Alena. I'm currently art director at Larian Studios, and I used to be lead character artist on Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay, I'll go next. Hello, I'm Luna, and I am currently associate character art lead at Larian Studios.
Hi, I'm GP. I'm senior character artist at the Larian Studio.
Me next, I guess. Hi, I'm Vicky, and I'm a character artist and also primarily take care of hair and fur pipelines at Larian and during BG3.
All right, so today we basically gathered to talk all things character art in Baldur's Gate 3, and we want to make it like an informal chat where we all gonna like kind of just share our experiences, a little bit of personal journeys. We're probably gonna talk over each other, so you know, just be prepared to it. So we wanna make it like, you know, laid back. Online lecture. No, not really. It's just going to be a small presentation that's covering art and tech and how we tackled all that. But before we start, obviously for those who are not familiar with Larian, we want to introduce the company a little bit as well. Larian Studios, in fact, was founded in 1996. So in 2 years, it's going to be our 30th anniversary. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. And well, like the journey of, you know, working on RPGs, like Larian started with Divine Divinity series that they were quite famous for back in the day. But few people know that Larian also worked on some of the kids' educational games. So if you maybe grew around Belgium 20 years ago, you might have played this kick-ass game that Larian did. And of course,
yeah, woohoo.
Yeah, you played it?
I didn't, but I know basically like everyone around me was hyping it up so much. So
awesome. So yeah, I mean, obviously we also are quite famous for Divinity Original Sin series, which is Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2. And, you know, last but not least, Baldur's Gate 3. And basically that's why we're all here talking. But the Larian Studios present is also something that we want to share with you guys because the company did change quite a bit in the span of those 28 years. So we currently have 7 studios all around the world. So actually we here represent 2 of our offices. So Luna, Vicky, and myself are from Ghent, and then GP is from Quebec, Canada. But it's it's coincidental that just us are here. And normally we also have character artists in Kuala Lumpur and Barcelona. But yeah, it's for now you just have to deal with us 4. All right. So to kind of, you know, start like our presentation and story, we also want to share a little bit of our personal journeys as well. So because it's very unique for each of us, kind of. Like I myself didn't really expect that I'm gonna end up working for games. I started my studies as a journalist, and that was like where I was going for. But then after 2 years and almost like finishing my degree there, I decided to like change completely the course of studies and moved out of the country to Belgium, in fact, where I followed another degree that was focused on game art. Meanwhile, was doing some freelance gigs for like really, really small mobile games. And at the end of my studies, I ended up looking for an internship and found Larian Studios, which were like really small company back in the day, and kind of ended up staying ever since. So that's how it was for me personally.
Yeah. Me too. It was not expected that I would work in the game industry. Like when I was young, like I start like going back to school at 25, around 25 years old. I go back to the Ubisoft college, like campus Ubisoft it was called, like in Montreal, but it doesn't exist, I think, anymore. And then yeah, because a little bit before I start drawing, like very late in my life actually. And after a year at the campus, I end up like having a job. I moved to Quebec City for a job opportunity on Guitar Hero. That was like my first game I work on, like one of the last Guitar Hero I think they made, and did work on at Binox for 6 years. Did like 1 year as a freelance, and then I heard about Larian Studio that was about to open a studio in Quebec City. So I was like quickly send my application, and I met like Eddie, that is our head studio here in the Quebec office, like in a restaurant here somewhere. Like there were no studio, there were nothing, and I stay here like since then. Like it's been 9 years, and it's really great.
Yeah, I remember. I think I joined like shortly after. So when I joined, Quebec existed like for a couple of months then, and it was very different vibe, right? Like it was very, like I don't know, 40, 50 people tops. So like a bit of a, also like more of an indie studio feel, I guess.
Yeah, I think when I joined, by then it was already quite different because the company had grown a lot and it was a bit more structured, I would say. I also joined right when the production of Baldur's Gate was really kicking off. So yeah, by then for me it was already quite different. Yeah, so I basically it was pretty straightforward how I got here. I went to Digital Arts and Entertainment Ho West in Belgium. So I studied game graphics there. And then in the final year, you have this internship that you have to do to finish your course. And yeah, Larian is pretty much was the biggest studio I would say in Belgium, but it was also yeah my biggest priority or like the company I really wanted to work at the most. So I was very excited that I got an internship opportunity there, and then I've been there ever since. So like 4.5 years now. And actually, it is the same school that Alena also went to.
I'm gonna be super original here and say that I went to the exact same school. But for me, well, let's go back a little bit. Um, I always wanted to make games. I was that one try-hard kid that, was like, yeah, I wanna, participate in making games. And, eventually it led me to DIE. And yeah, I was looking for an internship just like Luna and Alena, and I ended up at Larian. Um, and after my internship, because I joined during like end of DOS 2 production and early BG3 pre-production, there wasn't really much place for juniors at the time, so I left the company. I did a bunch of freelance. I worked in an outsourcing studio in UK, and then made my way back to Larian, and has been here ever since. So like also about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, so we're actually all three of us graduated from the same school, different times. So, if any of our viewers are, studying at the moment, that's also a really great tip that you can take away how to get into the industry. Well, that's what we usually recommend, actually. That did work out in more cases than it didn't. All right. So let's move into kind of the beginnings of the Baldur's Gate 3 development. So this picture was taken, a little bit after the release of DOS 2 in 2017. And this is actually Larian Summit. It was a time where we kind of like gathered all of the developers at a time in one location in Ghent. And at the time, I think we only had 4 offices, so Ghent, Quebec, St. Petersburg, and Dublin. Yeah, people that you can see on this picture, they were just first developers of BG3. The team grew immensely since then. I don't think we would have fit in that picture anymore if we would do a group picture now. And obviously it would be much harder as well with so many new locations added.
Oh, I think we lost Alena for a second.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
there was a lovely mute button that
It happens. It happens.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, so obviously, Baldur's Gate is Wizards of the Coast IP, and it's based on Dungeons and Dragon rule sets. And it was very interesting because when it was announced, right, that it was a big secret. A few people in the company knew what we're gonna work next, but for a couple of months we didn't actually. So Sven, our CEO, he gathered everyone who worked in Ghent at the moment in the kitchen. And then loudly announced that, hey guys, I have exciting news to share to you. Next project is actually going to be Baldur's Gate 3. And everyone started cheering. There was really loud, everyone started screaming. And then I was standing there, it's yay, I guess. What is it? I need to Google it because I haven't played Baldur's Gate back in the day. So then, obviously, we all of us who didn't know what it was, we educated ourselves and we were oh damn, that's the thing. But yeah, I mean, I guess where I grew up, Dungeons and Dragons and Baldur's Gate games weren't such a big thing. So I only played my first proper Dungeons and Dragons session after the development of Baldur's Gate 3, as actually a lot of people at the company. So we kind of gathered into groups and we were okay, let's see what it's all is about. Opened all of our player handbooks. We had a lot. So all of our bookshelves are filled with D&D books by now. So yeah, it was actually really fun.
Yeah. I didn't play much of the game, like the BG1 and 2, but I used to play Dungeon and Dragon when I was young, like a teenager, right? That in the moment where was not cool to play Dungeon and Dragon. I mean, we had no girlfriend and we were just 4 guys, that dreaming about this world that nobody knew existed. In the bus, we would tell oh yeah, when you did this and with the fireball and everything, and then people were looking at us weird. So yeah, it was that cool when I was young. But when we receive all the books, I jumped back on that, after many years, was maybe 20 years I didn't look into that, and it was great, to go back to that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't really play D&D that much. I played it a little bit in college and tried it, and I mean, I really liked it. But the eternal struggle of trying to find a group and then keeping the session going and all those things. So I never did a full campaign or anything like it. But I was always a really big fan of the D&D setting and also just medieval fantasy games in general. So even though I didn't really know specifically Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, when it got announced, I looked it up and I was oh my god, Dungeons and Dragons 6. So I was super excited about it.
Shame on all of you for not playing Baldur's Gate back when it released. For me, when back in the day as a kid, I mean, what was it? I was like 8 or 9, I guess. I didn't really know Dungeons and Dragons was a thing per se, but I did know Baldur's Gate and I did know Icewind Dale, and I played a lot of those games together with my brother. So for me, when I heard that we were gonna play work on Baldur's Gate 3, I was like, oh my god, like this is the dream. Like literally making a loop of like, you play this game and you loved it and you have such good memories with it. And now you actually get to make the next part of it. It was like kind of like dream come true, I guess.
Yeah. Here I want to take like a time to reflect on like how it was like when we first start BG3, because for me at for me at least, was really not like obvious like that we would be able to make a game like that, or that whatever we would trying to make, because I didn't really know like what we were trying to make. Because like if you look at those two screens, like this is like the dialogue in like Dust 2, like how it happened when you have a dialogue, when you have like a conversation with another character, and like the other screen is like BG3, right? And it's a big thing. Like I think that it has like a huge impact on the character art development, is like the cinematic, like the dialogue. So we really had to level up the fidelity of all the characters, and we were looking up at games like The Witcher 3 and stuff like this, and we didn't have like the technology, and like we didn't have a cinematic department when we started BG3, so it was like it took a lot, it was taking a lot of vision, like you needed to really like like envision, like, oh, it can be possible for me. Like seriously, I think I didn't believe it really, and I follow people that were like bigger dreamer than me, I follow them into that adventure, and I think it's incredible what we did.
Also, the company and the kind of the structure was very different back in the day. So in those two, we kind of didn't have any hierarchy, any structure to our art department. So there was just an art director and then artists. And a very common thing back in the day was that you kind of specialize in more than one thing. So you can kind of a bit do like two departments job, and it could be you could basically like model and then animate, or you could be a modeler and concept artist. So whoever just had any other skills, they were utilized, and it was really interesting how it worked. It's just like you can come in and you can pick up what you gonna do or specialize, and then you just talk to a really like few people, and you get things through, you get it in. So kind of want to touch up also how it's different now for character art department. So now we actually do kind of have certain responsibilities that is our area of expertise, and making sure that we're happy with it, how they look, how they feel, like are they fun to play. And obviously, it's creatures and animals, players and races, and unplayable NPCs, character customization features, and equipment. So basically, anything that's equipped on the character, we're also in charge of. But for character artment, internal structure, internal understanding of how we make this split, we kind of came up with a little bit of a different system. Even though there are some similarities. So creatures and animals are still in place, untouched. But then we split things a little bit differently. So we have heads, that is a separate kind of area of expertise. Then we have hair, we have outfits and armors, and we have customization features, of course. So the split is the following, because the pipeline and approach towards those things is slightly different, right? So you're going to notice as well, while we're going to discuss a bit like each of it in depth, that it kind of has a little bit of unique tool sets, unique pipelines, technical restrictions. So this is a little bit of a structure that we came up internally, and this could be worked on by different people, even for one specific NPC. Or obviously, well, our goal is that a character artist can handle all of that, but then maybe each of us specializes in one or the other field. That's usually what happens. And another thing that we also want to kind of touch up on is that we don't really work alone. So we can't just take the full credit for, how amazing characters are looking in game. So we work together with really a lot of departments, and we kind of place them here to illustrate like the ones that we're also working the closest together, and maybe the ones that we work a little bit further away, but nonetheless. So our like best buddies are usually concept artists, of course, and there is a lot of back and forth with character art and concept art. It's not like we just model from the concept, following everything that they did. No, we actually are also artists, and we interpret, we finish, we also design ourselves, and actually sometimes we work without the concept art entirely. That happened a lot too. Obviously designers, right? So like those people usually tell us that like what kind of rule sets the game have, what do they expect the player to experience, like how rare the armor set or outfit needs to look like, and how many we need to have. So that's obviously a lot of things to take in mind. Also like the combat creatures, all that. So that's with them. Obviously technical animation and technical art. Well, for technical animation, it's anything from topology, kind of making sure your character creature is in the correct pose, skinning as well. And then, if your mesh is not properly modeled, then they're gonna come knocking on your door for sure. And obviously technical art. So technical art did a lot of scripts and just general supports, did a lot of shaders for us. So there is a lot of back and forth. Like obviously they can't work without us, because like we need to tell them, like what do we need, and then they kind of can tell us what they can contribute and provide. And of course there are also lots of other departments. Big shout out to our graphics programming guys as well, who did a lot on this project, as you're gonna see. Definitely couldn't have done it without them. And we would like to start with the heads pipeline. So for the heads pipeline, it was a challenge for us actually, because we never, as GP mentioned, I think we never did like such a big project before. I probably know how Divinity Original Sin series look like. They're very stylized, and here we needed to have cinematic dialogues with characters that would show their emotions, and who would look great. And then obviously they're also going to be a lot of them, like just like the pure scope of the game was insane. So we needed to figure out how to tackle it, and we need to obviously figure out that on top of the style, and kind of build up the team a little bit, and the knowledge and the expertise. So that was really a hard task. And as you see, like that kind of was our journey. That's what we started with and ended up with, which is pretty insane. I remember, the character on the left, I think there were 5 of character artists back in the day, and we all worked on her. We just like bounced the mesh back and forth trying to make something work.
And that was not like the first iteration that we did, right? It was like a couple of
Yeah.
iteration after we started. So
Absolutely. It was probably 6 months in, I think.
so
Yeah. We also compared it with other engines, right? Like you can see that like something is off on the screenshots, right? So that's why I gave a shout out to graphics programming. So basically, we had modeled a mesh to the best of our ability, which it's not where we wanted to be with that too. And then we checked how it looked in Marmoset, how it looked in Unreal, and then we're like, yeah, okay, we get we're not there yet, but look at how the same mesh looks in other rendering engines. And then we try to like kind of push it like step by step, and with those small steps, we finally ended up somewhere. I guess.
Because I think like the shader we use for this face is the same that the environment artists use to make to texture chair. You know, there is not a special shader for the skin or anything. In fact, like it's the one shader to rule them all.
Yeah, indeed. No subsurface scatter, no nothing. Like, yeah, hair. Yeah, I mean, Vicky's gonna talk about hair. Not gonna even mention it. All right. So one of the other things that we kind of started looking into, so photogrammetry. So photogrammetry was already done by our environment art team for some vegetation, some of the props, and we kind of looked at it, and we also were curious to try. So as I mentioned, we've never worked with realistic or semi-realistic meshes before. So we basically partnered with 1024, another shout out to them. So those are the guys behind 3D Scan Store. And then we scanned 40 models with them. And that was like a bit of a try to just get a hold of this graphics leap, because when you don't have any point of reference, when you don't know if your mesh is good enough, right? Like it's really hard to compare what else do you need to change, how do you need to improve. So what we ended up doing, we got some of the raw scans and some of the clean scans, and then we tried to build on top of them. And this is an example of the scan that ended up in the game, in fact, which not all of them actually did, and you can see that like it doesn't look the same, right? So that was never like a process to us where we would just take existing humans and we would put them in the game. So we wanted to add a little bit of a personal touch to it. But yeah, nonetheless, that's what it ended up into, our head A. So that's the name that this guy received. And so this was the head basically that we used like all of the like tests on, and like we retargeted from. That's why also you can see that like some of the features did change from the previous slide. So like his mouse is completely straight, his face is very symmetrical. So this is basically due to some of the restrictions that we had. And because this head was like a bit of a pivotal, like everything derived from it, it needed to be as neutral and as dumb as possible, essentially.
I really can't stand looking at this face anymore. It's just like, it's been everywhere in every single test. It's like whenever I see it, I'm just like, oh my god, please, no, not again.
Yeah, it's basically the head that's on like the default character template. So every time someone would script like a new situation or a new event, or we would have to go in and then dress up all the characters, all the dudes would look like this. And you're like, I'm so sick of this guy. I've seen him everywhere. Like, please, anyone else.
Yeah, honestly, I modeled this guy now. I'm also sick of him. I was like, no, I was hiding that I did him at some point. I was like, yeah, okay. If I could, I'd remodel him, but yeah, it is what it is. So not all of them ended up like this guy, right? There were more people. And this is kind of the result already of, people that were made not from the scans, essentially, just using the knowledge and some of the textures, some of the things that we learned from them. Because one of the very important things that we noticed is that when you have this like visual feedback in front of you, it's much easier to sculpt. So you could like kind of compare if it's realistic enough, if something is terribly off with your anatomy, because obviously there is always a margin. So once you're kind of like get the general feel for anatomy and proportion, like with faces, a few millimeters like to the left or right, and you can ruin it. So it's when I see those like guides and like tons of like things for concept artists normally, where they would explain, yeah, so it needs to measure precisely like this and precisely like this, and it's like, yeah, kinda, but like, have you seen real people? They like, it doesn't work this way, or not always. Sometimes it does. So once you're in the realm where you're like, okay, I kind of get it, then the fun part starts, right? Like, how to create like a really memorable and character like faces, you know, that are special, that would be either not memorable actually if they're generic guys, or very memorable in case of custom characters. And then the origin characters and like custom NPCs, that was another kind of step you know, up for us. So this were probably least like based on anything. They were really kind of a collaboration with writing, narrative, and lots of different artists, lots of different feedbacks as well. Because yeah, we wanted to get it right? We want to represent them the best possible way we could. Like with Carla, some of you probably know that she underwent like a lot of iterations. It's not the first version of Carla that, you know, we gave to the player, but yeah, eventually we really were happy with her. And with Jaheira as well, right? Like, she existed in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. And if you look at her portraits there, like, you're going to be very surprised because, well, first, that's not how you remember her. And then second, well, it's like two different people, right? Like in BBG, one portrait and then two. It's just like two different Jaheiras. But anyhow, we were chasing not exactly the looks and features. We were chasing the feeling, right? We were chasing the memory of how people remember Jaheira from the previous game. And then we were like kind of also discovered that some people remembered fan art more than the actual art in the game. And then we tried to incorporate it. So like it was also a lot of trial and errors. And yeah, finally we ended up with her looking like that. And now a little bit of a more technical thing as well that is kind of, yeah, we always needed to keep in mind. So this is head A. Yes, you guessed right. So this is head A, but more of a technical representation of it. So what you can see here, right? So you can see some landmarks, and these landmarks indicate of where the loops need to be. And this is very, like, it needed to be very precise, like pixel perfect on every head, because if it's not, then our tech animation department is gonna find you and it's gonna like you know, at 1 a.m. they're gonna like call you and then ask you to fix it because it's not gonna pass if it's not in order. And basically, so yeah, so there are those landmarks. There is obviously also this blue area, which indicates where the sculpt starts. And this is also something that we realized we can't afford to have unique sculpts. Because all of the hairstyles need to be reusable. And then to make it happen, they need to match. But then, as you probably guys know, if anyone here is an art student, all the skull shapes are actually different. So we had to really cheat a lot, and we had to tackle like the face morphology in a very unique way, because we are keeping the skull shape the same. So we needed, if the face is wide, we needed to kind of like, you know, reposition it, scale it up and down, and like do some magic with it, like blow some dust on it. And then we ended up with something that looked kind of more or less proportional. And yeah, that's kind of the thing that we had to work with. But it wasn't all pain, right? Because some things are actually work better or work usually better in structure. So all of the heads, every head that you see in the G3 has exactly the same UV layout. And this UV layout was also like, you know, like iteration number 20 probably, because we wanted to make sure that like, even if somebody with a huge nose is gonna like have this UV layout, then the pores would still need to be very precise, sharp, and not blurry. So that was kind of it. And what it gives you a lot of freedom in terms of your texture maps, because not only you can reuse maps, you can use exactly the same like maps that would just feed into all of your characters, like some of the parts of roughness. If you want to transfer some of the texture detail, you can easily do that. So it's a really great time saver.
The makeup, the tattoos.
Yes, actually, that's also the main reason why those work, for sure. It would be impossible without with different UVs. And another thing that you can also notice is that, well, here, like you're probably wondering what the hell is it? But those are the supporting meshes, and those are also very important. So if you're kind of starting out or want to look into head modeling, I would definitely recommend you to just go online and search how different games or different artists handle those meshes, because this gives a lot of fidelity actually. So what you can see here, right? So with the eyes, you can see obviously the eyelashes, right? But you can also see the tear lines. It's like a bit of a transition between the lid and the eye. You can see the eyeball, and then you can see this one is the eyeglass / eyeshadow. And eyeshadow does a lot for the eyes. So you would think that, a good rendering engine would need to handle it because, well, my lashes are naturally casting some shadow on my eye and the lid as well. No, not really. It's not there yet, or like it is there, but like very perfect lighting conditions, very good renders, but most of the time it's not. So this is like the safe net, it's better to have it. It's going to make a huge difference. And obviously, yeah, well, we have some teeth, vampire teeth, regular teeth. They're colored in different shade of red. Why? Because we actually can hide them. So if somebody would need to be toothless or missing some teeth, we could. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we noticed a couple of characters like this in BG3. We definitely planted a couple. I don't know, I dare you to find those. Actually, I don't know where they are themselves. Like, I would need to look. But yeah, there are occasional people with missing teeth. Oh yeah, when you become a half illiterate, you're missing teeth, I think. Yeah, you should at least, if it's not reported as a bug. Okay. And finally, this one, this is suspicious image that's called Potato Head. What is it? So Potato Head is a script that was given kindly to us by TechArt that helped to snap all of those meshes in place. So once you make a new head obviously has exactly the same topology, with exactly the same vertex order, everything the same. And then this script could pick up and actually even name your meshes properly. So like you just need to name the head right, and then you like press a button, and then the meshes are just like spawned on the correct spot. Okay, not precisely correct spot, but it's a good start. So yeah, we really enjoyed that tool and used it a lot on every character. But yeah, so if you're started on the head, right, what do you start from? Yeah, obviously a sphere, of course. Yeah, who doesn't start from a sphere? Well, yeah, so technically, you're not wrong. So you need to definitely work on the your general feel of anatomy and shape, and you need to know the basics. But of course, in the production scenario, like in production environment, you probably won't work from sphere, or if your lead notices, they would have a serious talk with you because like you'd be spending much more time than is allowed essentially on a character. So we usually start with like base meshes. So that's generally the pipeline. It's also easier then to match everything that you need to match. Like there are lots of things that need to be present. And even if you're starting from the base mesh, like it's, yeah, again, you still need to know what you're doing, and you need to self-critique yourself a little bit. So you need to be the harshest judge of your own work. So what I used to do actually, when we were developing, the style and look of BG3 characters as well. So I would have a sculpt that I worked for a while on, and then I would put it next to a really cool sculpt of a face or a character from another game, or just like like anything that I considered like that's a good looking one, like that's where I want to be. And then I looked at them together, and then I compared, right? So like, are we there yet? And then it's like, nope. So back to work then, And obviously you shouldn't neglect tech. So tech is shaders, topology, supported meshes. You don't have to know it all, right? If you're just studying the head anatomy, it's hard enough. Like you won't be able to also do an amazing eye shader that like has, dilated pupil. That's like, I don't know, like just, like give yourself time and space for each, right? So if you're focusing on one thing, it's absolutely okay to look up what shaders does Unreal Engine have? Like, what can I do in Marmoset Toolbag? Maybe just go and check the topology. You don't have to reinvent it. And especially in the team scenario, right? Like, we're all here to back each other up. We just only need to do it once. well, and then we have it, and then it's more about actual artistic expression. Like we don't really care that maybe like each of us would do the typology of the head differently. What matters is, does the character look good? And if yes, then we're there. And obviously, you need to have lots of references and research. So yeah, have your pure ref, fill it in with hundreds of things, but also have a goal in mind, right? So like kind of like do reference also with your head in it. So do the ones that like, okay, this is overall vibe that I'm looking for. Those are the features that like I want to sculpt or model or put. So yeah, do it twice.
All right, so it's time for me to talk a little bit. So I want to talk to you guys about the challenges we encountered when working on hair for BG3 and how it affected our production. And I will also try to talk a little bit about general things that are good to know if you want to get into hair or fur for games. So, how it started versus how it ended. Well, it has been quite a long and bumpy journey. Creating good hair, it requires you to take a lot of things into account, and it's kind of very dependent on a very good collaboration between several departments, because like Alena already mentioned, like you don't work on things alone. So on the left, you can see our early start. It's rather basic and not what you would probably want. And right is where we managed to end up on release. I would say it's pretty solid, given that we started from complete zero.
And you can see how the faces used to look as well here.
It's fabulous. So in case of fur, our jump in quality was not as big as in case of hair, but it was overall a good progress. We managed to set up a pipeline that allowed for better results. Fur generally has its own array of problems, starting from the way you choose to tackle fur for your game. So, for example, if you choose to commit to card placement, or if you completely ditch the cards and you do it with pom fur or some other technique. It is pretty hard to make a convincing looking animal completely covered in fur. You can get away with way more when you're making a fantasy creature, just because, well, it's a fantasy creature, you don't really see it in real life. But in case of animals, it can quite easily start to look off and a bit goofy. I would say a good example of that is generally wolves in games. Uh, Often they have quite exaggerated emotions. But if, like in case of BG3, you need them to be mostly expressionless and neutral state due to tech animation constraints, then, well, very fast they can feel rather more like, huggable and fluffy friends rather than menacing wild animals.
I mean, honestly, it's also such a shame because they always in games make you kill dogs and wolves, and then it's already hard enough as it is. And then if you already also have to make them look very cute and fluffy and adorable, it's like you do not have to go that far. We could make them a little bit more menacing, maybe. Might be easier then.
So the beginnings. So right, the Dark Ages. Early on, we had basically nothing set up in-house to support creating hair, integrating hair, or like, well, any structure really. We wanted to have a massive amount of hairstyles to be able to populate the world with characters that feel different enough from each other. But all we had at the time was some outsourced hair meshes. So the entire system and the pipeline had to be set up from scratch. So we wanted hair to have the same or similar quality as the rest of the characters, because if one thing stands out as worse, then the immersion and believability of your character kind of breaks. This led us to develop several areas through a very extensive trial and error, which I will share a little bit about with you today. So most important parts and most impactful parts for BG3 hair were the tools, the snap system, the shader, and customizability. So hair is heavily dependent on many factors. There is sadly no magical button, make hair, bam, and you're done. Although I know a lot of people would probably want one. Having good tools, I would say, makes up for about 40% of your workflow. The better the tools, the better the speed and efficiency with which you make your asset. Without good tools, the time you will spend on making hair or fur or whatever else, it will increase exponentially. I would say even more so than with other areas in character art. Um, so we went from having to place things manually, like in case of a direwolf that you can see on the left, where around 5,000 cards had to be placed by hand, which was real fun, by the way, if you want to have an incentive to throw a PC out the window, to having setups which let you place them quicker, better, and more automatically. Still, it's not perfect, and it will require, I think, many improvements in the future, but it's has been it's better than what it was before. So in case of hair and fur tools, every single thing that you can shortcut or any automation that you can come up with will win you so much time in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, I also definitely remember you saying at one point where you were like, okay, so if you don't have the correct tools for it, it's basically like you're trying to sculpt a dragon, but the only thing you have is a move brush. Like you're gonna get there, maybe eventually, but you probably don't want to do it that way. So
The
yeah,
amount of time you will lose is just incomparable.
I mean, you could.
Well, yeah, you could. If I guess, yeah, you could. So let's say that you would like to, for example, create coily or curly hair, but you don't have a way to control like anything of it. Um, I feel like I wouldn't even know where to start. Like not having the possibility to adjust the radius to increase it or decrease it, or how many curls you have or the length of it. It would just be pure torture. Like please don't do it to yourself. So just spend the time to create or work with good tools. So then there's the snap system. So we knew that we wanted hairstyles to be equipable by every race and body type. We were planning for 11 races, 2 body types for each. So if we manage to get away with races that are quite similar to each other, so let's say half-elves and humans due to the way their skulls are, that would mean that we would end up with around 14 snap types. So all of that would kind of result in having to manually snap 85 hairstyles 14 times. And, well, nobody's saying we want to do that, right? Well, here's the fun part. We did not have a worked out automatic snapping system until after early access, but we did want to deliver already to the player the best experience possible. So a bunch of brave and happy volunteers embarked on a journey of manually snapping hairstyles for early access. I believe I don't have to tell you how imprecise and prone to mistakes the entire thing was. Imagine having to make a change later on, like you would have to basically resnap it to everything all over again. So eventually, thanks to our tech animation team, we created a system where the hairstyles would get automatically snapped one from one race and body type to another. That being said, we still ran into problems, new ones for a change, where some heads were too different and too extreme. This could have been prevented had we talked about it back when heads were created, but it's also just kind of part of game development. Like, you cannot account for everything because as often systems get developed along with the game. So in case of hair, you don't just make an asset. How you integrate it into the engine and how you set it up also really matters. Hair shader kind of makes it or breaks it. It can make your hair look very different. The same hairstyle, like with a different shader or throw into a different engine, will just can look so much different just due to the sheer amount of settings that influence it. Sometimes even just changing the lighting setup can completely change how it looks. In case of BG3, um, every hairstyle, every hair color had to work with every single lighting setup everywhere, which, well, eventually led us to situations where hair wouldn't look very optimal. Sometimes it would glow, sometimes it would be flat, overlit, underlit. It just takes a very long time to find balance between all of those things combined to get the best results. So I also believe that that's why fancy hair renders where all you're showing is just hair and a gray mannequin is so much less interesting than when you show the entire character. Because when you're just showing hair, you can fake a lot that you wouldn't be able to set up the same way for production use. So even just like seeing the hair and the entire character in a different lighting setup can tell you so much more about how the hair is created and how well it works.
Yeah, because you would be able to place like a couple of light that make the hair look good, but like if the face was visible, it was like s-
Yep,
was would be a weird lighting setup or something like this.
exactly. So early access shader. We didn't know until mid-production whether we would have hair shader support or not. I whined to code for about 2 years until they gave in. Um, so we knew that we were going into early access with a basic shader. That meant that we need to make it look good with a bunch of parameters to just try to fake the feeling of hair and improve the overall quality of it. We had quite a lot of settings, but quality-wise, it wasn't really where we wanted it to be. So we went on to set it up for early access, just then to completely change and redo it afterwards. Um, During the actual hair shader production, we experimented a lot. It went through a lot of R&D together with code and tech arts. It was a continuous collaboration, a real team effort, really. Uh, like continuously going back and forth of like, oh yeah, this doesn't work, then code is changing it, then tech art's checking it, and then I have an idea and throwing it, hey guys, I was thinking, and then they're like, oh no, I no, please don't. At one point, I was spending more time with the tech art team than my own. And they were like, why don't you just move in here? So yeah, it was quite a long, but a really fun and I would say rewarding process. I do wish we had the time to develop things further, like dreads and afros, but hopefully we can make a difference there in the future. So apart from us wanting everyone to have the same hairstyles available, the same pool of hairstyles, we wanted to still add some sort of customizability to hair on top of that to make it a bit more fun for the player. So we added highlights and graying hair. So we didn't want highlights to just be randomly generated and boring. we actually spend the time to research how people dye their hair and what they do, and then try to translate it into our hairstyles. And all of a sudden, way more people had to be involved, and at that time, everyone started realizing how crap our tools are, and then there was like this a bit of panic moment there.
Yeah, so this was absolutely, I just need to jump in for a second. This was absolutely a trap when it happened. Wiki was like, "Hey guys, so for the next patch, we really want to do something cool for the players. We want to give them highlights, but I can't do it all by myself. I definitely need some help." And she was like, "Who wants to join?" And then a lot of people, me included, I think JP included as well, we were there. We were like, "Oh yeah, sounds fun, lots of colors, it's gonna be great." And then we started working on it and we were like, what is this? Have you been working like this the entire time? And we were all like, no, this is horrible. So then, I mean, the good part about that is that way more people started complaining about the tools, so then some things actually got looked at faster. So you did put us like into you did lead us like into a trap, but eventually it kind of worked out. So, you're forgiven this
All
time.
according to plan. Yeah. So um, then we also had the graying hair, which I believe was also quite a fun addition, because well, apart from obviously being used as graying hair, if you didn't want something as unique as highlights, you this still allows you to add a little bit more subtle variation into your hair. And then, last but not least, helmet hair, while it wasn't really customizable for the player, we did want to make sure that, well, when you pick like this most fabulous hairstyle in CC and then you equip a hat and then you're bald, like we really wanted to avoid that. So we did spend also a bunch of time to try to develop a system for it so that, you still have nice hair under your hats and you don't, feel like you want to cry about it.
Yeah, and also one thing that we definitely discussed, and we had to look at how much time we had for it, but we really wanted to do it correctly, was we really wanted to avoid that if you, for example, pick like a cool dreadlocks hairstyle in CC, and then you equip a hat, you have like this long blonde straight hair, and it's like, what happened? So we kind of wanted to also have a system that would look if you picked short hair or long hair, and then what type of hair you would have. So like straight or wavy, curly, dreadlocks or afro, something like that. And then it would assign a hairstyle under the helmet on that. And it was a lot of work because it meant we had to make a lot of meshes for it, and but it was worth it. We really wanted to do it correctly.
So, to summarize my part of this presentation, I believe creating a coherent workflow for hair takes a lot of effort. To make this many hairstyles and make sure that everything works between departments, it requires a lot of spreadsheets and organization. It also is very dependent on good collaboration between different teams and good communication flow, where things don't get stuck for too long. You will 100% run into problems and mistakes, and I don't think those are avoidable, since just due to the sheer amount of time you will spend experimenting with hair. Um, and while there is generally more information openly available on the internet or in tutorials, whatever, to make hair, to create high quality hair for production purpose is, I think, still quite a heavy R&D process. Thank you.
Thank you, Wiki. Happy to have
Thank
you
you.
here.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for
So
having me.
by now we've seen heads, we've seen the head pipeline, we've seen the hair pipeline, but if we would ship the game like this, everyone would be walking around naked. And I mean, the rating of this game is already too high as it is. There's enough nudity, so they also need clothes. So let's take a moment to think about the armor pipeline and production and how it kind of went for that. Yeah, so as you've probably heard by now and noticed in the previous sections, our main challenge and our main hurdle to kind of overcome in this project was the scope of the game. We knew we were working on a D&D game. We knew the player handbook. We couldn't just decide to like not make the player handbook races. So we had a lot of work cut out for us. I think Wiki said we wanted, to originally have like, or we had 11 races with 2 or more body types each. So that meant, quite a lot of work. And you also wouldn't be happy if you were playing the game and you killed a very specific NPC that had a cool outfit and you can't wear it because you are a dwarf and that is a human. So our philosophy was, if we have to make something, if we want to make something available for the players, it really needs to work, and it needs to work on all the different versions a player can be. So obviously we had an automatic snapping tool for this, right? Only, just like with the hair, it's kind of seeing a pattern by now. We noticed that it wasn't really acting or behaving like intended, and it didn't really give us the results that we needed. So especially on smaller characters, you can kind of see it here. The automatic snapping tool, you would lose the shape of the armor because it would follow like the body too much. Things that used to be round would be suddenly egg shaped, and it didn't really fit that well anymore. So we often would have to manually go over it. And eventually we noticed that it just took us more time to do it with the tool and then keep revising it than just doing manually. So we went over them and we did it by hand. And just like with the hair, I'm sure a lot of people here were included in that. And they also totally loved it and had a happy, good time with armor snapping.
Very, very fond memories. I still remember snapping something as stupid as I think umbrella braces it was, and I was like, ah, haha, I'm just snapping braces. What can go wrong? So I snap it. I make sure that it looks good, and I check it 5 times, and then I'm like, ha, Luna, please check it as well. And then she's like, ha, I will. And she checks it as well. She's like, all good, all good. 3 weeks later, we still find it clipping. We're like, well, how does this
Yeah, we get a like
happen?
bug report back and it's like, how? We looked at it so many times. But yeah, it's like the thing, if you need to snap it 14 different times at number 14, even if you think you're checking it, you're kind of just like glancing over it. So that was it was quite a process, but we believe it was needed to give it like the quality that it deserved, especially also on the smaller races. But as you can see here, there is hope. It doesn't have to be like this forever. Towards the more like end of the production, we notice like we are losing way too much time on this. This is so many man hours that we are losing on something that definitely should be automated. So we had another look at our tool. We kind of just wiped everything and started from scratch. And this time we're doing like more, we're doing better. We're actually taking a look at the issues and trying to resolve them. And we are developing like a better tool that we will hopefully be able to use in the future. And here you kind of have a sneak peek, like we're still working on it, like the Orin armor that got released quite like, I would say recently, was one of the first armors that was almost done completely by the automatic tool. So that was a huge lifesaver for us and also tech animation. So for armors, you don't only want to think about the scope because there's like a huge amount of characters, but except for that, you also needed a lot of freedom that you wanted to give the player. Because, I mean, I think a lot of people probably in chat, if you play like a game and you have your character, you kind of either you want to have the best stats and it doesn't matter what you combine with each other, or you just want to have a pretty character, but you want to have like the freedom to build it yourself. And you don't just want to have one outfit that you have to wear. You kind of want to choose your hat and then choose your boots and choose your pants and all those things. So we also needed to make sure that we had a system for that. And here you can see how that kind of worked, the modularity in our armor set. So you have like the Cult of the Absolute set, and you can see that the different parts were concepted and built in a similar way. So you would have different helmets, but they would end at the same piece, so you could easily swap them out, and you would have different boots, but they would be made in the same way. So that's how everything kind of clicked together. And you can also see it here, how it kind of works in action. You would only have like these amount of meshes, but by combining them and making them in a modular way, you would be able to build an entire army basically, as long as it works together, which was great for this set. However, we had a bunch of sets, and we always made sure that it worked together with the assets from that set, but we didn't check everything with everything. So when the game was about to release on early access, we noticed it looked like this. And it was a bit of an issue. Like everything was clipping, butts were sticking out, nipples were sticking out, everything everywhere was sticking out. And we couldn't do it like this. So we kind of panicked a little bit. And actually, yeah, here I looked back at a very old screenshot from, I think this is when early access just released. And I don't know if you noticed something, but if we like take a closer look at it, um, they are actually all wearing the same boots. And this is because these, when early access released, these were the only boots that kind of worked with the system and kind of worked with everything we had. Everything else was just clipping through. So we just had to give everyone the same fucking boots. It was amazing. Yeah. So we kind of had to solve that, right? So how did we solve it? We made a lot of rules, and we made a lot of like setups and limitation meshes, and we kind of had to build an entire system from scratch. So you can see it here. This is not everything, but this is some of it. So what you see here is like, for example, the orange meshes, they would show pants cannot go outside of them, they need to stay inside of them, and then boots, they have to go outside of them. And if all those things follow the same rules, everything will click together nicely and everything will magically work. But that did mean we had to go over a lot of the meshes again to kind of like make them work with the system. And I already earlier in the stream, I got threatened by Tech Animation because I think he's also watching. It was lots of back and forward with Tech Animation. They were like breathing down our necks, like, this is not working, this is clipping. So it was a bumpy ride, like Vicky said, but we did get there, I would say. But I mean, of course, if we would make armors with only technical limitations in mind, we would only have like skin tight morph suits on all the characters. We would basically just have like the bodies with some textured on it, and we didn't really want that. So there was still room for artistic expression and like some artistic freedom that we could do. So when we had those limitations, we knew where we had to watch out, but we also knew in these areas you can kind of still go free and have some more like artistic freedom and kind of do your thing. So we also tried to push the boundaries on newer assets. Like you could see it on the rope here, for example. It has like the wider sleeves. This was something we tried more towards the end of the production because we didn't want to make everything like completely the same. So also the multiple layers of cloth over each other was also something that we kind of tried at the end when we had cloth simulation a bit more figured out. So there was room to like push the boundaries of those limitations a little bit. But yeah, it was always back and forward with tech animation, always lots of testing, lots of checking. But then within the parts where we didn't have that much limitation, you could completely like still sculpt and kind of do your thing. Yeah, and then for texturing, for a lot of things, we kind of like counted on texture variations. And if you had a generic rope, you could kind of make 5 generic ropes out of it by just switching out some small things and kind of giving it a new texture. But we couldn't only rely on texture variations because with the amount of characters we had, that would just make the game way too heavy. So we needed additional customizability. on our outfits. So for that, our tech art team, they created like this armor shader that we kind of use on everything, and you can kind of see it here. We would basically texture in almost grayscale values and then map colors to do an ID mask that would define if it would be leather or metal or cloth or something like that, or even something different. And then in engine, we would be able to select which colors we would like these to be. So that made it so we could very easily decide in engine with the same rope, same textures, nothing new, which colors we would want this guy to have and that guy to have. And we could make an enormous range of characters with just one asset. It was also nice because sometimes we wouldn't really need to do this, but we still did it on certain assets just because we knew that the modding community would want to go have fun with it. And sometimes we tried to like include meshes that we were like, this is only going to get used on like a few NPCs. We don't really need to do it. But then you kind of think about if you play a game and you want to install mods, you would also want to have all the creative freedom. So sometimes we did like a little bit of extra effort just to make sure that you guys could get it. And these are like a few of the mods that I just found that I really liked because when early access first released, we were also looking at what the community was creating and what they were kind of like putting together with the meshes that we made. And they sometimes really had combinations with just assets, pushing them together that we did not think of. And we were like, wow, that's amazing. We should do that as well. So then we kind of took inspiration from that. Anyway, yeah, I mean, it also helps us. It gives us a lot of feedback on like what the community likes to see, what we make, and what the community feels like they were still missing, and what we can do better in the future. So that's always really nice to know as well. Yeah, so I mean, if we take a look at like what we've been talking, like what I've been talking about, and just the armor pipeline in general, what we really learned during this project is that you need to take enough time to develop tools if you want to, if you expect those tools to take over like half of the manpower. If you want to automate something, it needs to be done correctly, and it needs to be done in a way where it actually like supports the artist and it kind of reaches the quality that an artist would reach. So yeah, better luck next time with the snapping tool. Also, yeah, building on top of that, I mean, communication with all those teams that have to build the tools and that have to make the shaders for you and do those things is extremely important. And we couldn't have done it without Tech Art, who created a really cool velvet shader for us, or the armor shader. We couldn't have done it without Tech Animation. Yes, I am saying this because I'm being threatened. Graphics programming, like they said, for fur and everything. So yeah, you need to really work together with all the teams to create even just one asset correctly. And then, yeah, of course, you need to still balance the artistic and the technical sides, because if you only go artistic, like completely without thinking about constraints and limitations, you're not really going to have something that works in a game setting. But if you focus too hard on only technical limitations, you might end up with some really boring designs. So you need to listen to them, but every so often you need to try and still think a little bit out of the box and push just a little bit of those technical constraints to see if you can still push the quality a bit higher. So, I mean, of course, this is like in a huge production, but I would want the main takeaway for this to be like, think about your asset, think about like the function it's going to have in game, the function you want it to have, how many times you would use it, and try to plan out some things at the beginning, preferably, and not halfway through it, but be prepared to iterate anyway, because that's just how game development is. And don't be afraid to like change it, because it will sometimes really look better in the end. And with that, I think we are moving to JP.
Yeah. So creature is basically everything that is not the playable race. and there is no dedicated like creature artist like at Larian, like, but some people do more creature than other. But yeah, I did a couple of them, so that's why I'm gonna talk about this. Um, like with creature you come more liberty, like in a sense, so it's exciting, like all those like armor like guides and like all those like you don't need to follow them because like your shape is gonna be probably like, and you can build the proportion and everything, you don't need to respect an already set skeleton and everything, so that's cool, like there's less rules a bit, but still, you need to think about the fact that it's going to be in a game, and then it's going to be like some necessities, some stuff that we're going to need. So here is like yeah, all the creature like in our game, most of them except for those we created and that are now part of the folklore of D&D, I suppose, because they've been created by us, which is cool. But all the others come from the monster manual, and here you can see like an example of a concept, like in the left corner, like from the monster manual, and how we reinterpreted like the concept, because we wanted something that was more grounded, like less stylized and everything. And and yeah, so that's a good concept, I think. Like you have like a lot of detail there, like you have the back views, which is not always the case. Sometimes you receive a concept that is like just like a sketch, really, like, and you need to figure it out, like what to do, like everything, like the interlocking of the shapes and like the motif. Like if you have like a pattern or something and it's not clear on the concept, you need to figure it out. So it's a lot of work, like for you. But some character artists is like that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think you can count on one hand the amount of times that we got a concept with a back view. It really is your lucky day if it's like an entire turnaround and then like, wow, wow,
That's
must be
true,
really
yeah.
important. Sometimes it's just on vibes alone. It's just like, yeah, we have this
Yeah.
rough idea, make something with that. Like, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
that's why those concepts from American was really on
Yes.
point. But I think those concepts were because sometimes we send some stuff like outsourcing, and usually those people have like concepts that are more detailed because we cannot like follow up as closely on the development. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like yeah. So here it's another example. Sometimes we have to collaborate also with FX doing creature because, and sometimes it's harder to envision like the final asset, because like you have like in this case, I was having like a floating like armor in the air without nothing, so it looked nothing like the concept and didn't have like the same vibe. And you need to collaborate, like making like base geometry like you see here, so the FX can start doing his magic. You need to believe that at the end, but like it turned out super great. Like sometimes, like even those that most of the time you can create your own thing, your own proportion. Sometimes some creature are based on another creature rig to save time on animation and everything. So this is a case here. Like I did like this thing that was the butler that was created based on the measle rig, and you still need to follow up certain technicality because most of the creature anyway, or even the animal, is gonna talk in our game, because we have like a spell that's like speak to animals, so you can speak to every animal in the game, I believe. And yeah, so you need to follow rules, so can be
Even
some.
rats have to be detailed.
Yeah, so you
Oh
have
my
like.
God. The first rat we made, I still remember it. I think there was like this really low poly rat we have somewhere, and then we had to update it. But I remember the first rat. I really liked that one.
Yeah, we
uh,
had to redo a ton of animals actually, and a ton of things by the end of the project for sure.
and you see the concept here is less clear, like it's like more like a black mass for the suit, so you need to do a little bit of research. And yeah. And so unique creature, yes, you can go like you're more free, but you still need to think about the fact that probably those creatures gonna be not alone in the scene. You know, you're gonna have like multiple of them, so you need to distinguish one from the other. Like to add variety, you have like all kinds of tricks, like small assets that change from one to the other, or color variation. So yeah, 5 year of development is a long time, like, and it's an iterative process, like you've seen with everything we did. Like we iterate a lot on what we're doing. So this is one of the first creature I did, like on BG3, and at some point I saw those, like, you know, the wolf pop up, and like everybody was doing super cool creatures and everything, and I was feeling like, okay, this is not gonna make it, and I asked the permission to go back to this yen, you know, and like, yeah, Alena said, yeah, sure, take the time to redo it, and I think it's great, like, to have the opportunity like that to come back to your work, you know, and to level up your art. So in conclusion, you know, yes, it's a creature offer more creativity for sure, but still, you know, like we're not making like statue or stuff like that. We're making a game, so it's important to take the game into consideration. That's it.
Thank you. Well, that's basically was mostly what we wanted to share with you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that was informative. But yeah, we kind of covered most of the things on well, what we do in character art, at least the important bits. And yeah, I think it's time for a Q&A. How about that?
That was amazing, y'all. You can't hear the applause. I swear, we're gonna have to send microphones to everybody that watches these streams, so that way when they clap, you can hear it come through audio, or I can just hit a button for y'all. I did have an answer to your question from earlier. I had another question for chat, and then I had a couple of nitpicky things for y'all. So and then we'll get into this Q&A. First and foremost, character creation. I actually did pretty good. I only spent about 5 hours in there. So
Damn.
I'm sure other people probably spent way more time. For the chat, I'm very curious how many tabs you made in total. I've only made 2 because I have one that I play with my friends and then one that I do solo. So I'm very curious on how many characters y'all have made. A lot of people were saying that they actually use the character creator in BG3 for their actual campaigns that they play at a table. So that's really interesting. I hadn't even thought about that, so now I'm going to be doing that all the time. And I think the one thing that I did want to make very important about BG3, just in case anybody was confused about the end game of Baldur's Gate, the end game of Baldur's Gate is really to look good. Whatever you think that it is, and it being, you know, story and all that stuff, no, none of that matters. It's to look good. It's to feel good. And that's what's really important. I also wanted to say that a lot of you were saying that you're newer to Dungeons and Dragons. You hadn't played too much before, and I just want to say, as somebody that's played Dungeons and Dragons for a long time, welcome. You know, it's all about mentality. It's not about experience. I've played with people that have played Dungeons and Dragons for 20 years, and they will never let you hear the end of how much they know about Dungeons and Dragons and everything. So it's just about being an awesome community. And the last thing is, I wanted to thank you so much, Wiki, for crushing my dreams of being in a video game because my hair is way too curly and difficult to sculpt. So, you know, that's fine. I'll just shave my head, I guess, or be that bald guy with a hat that every game does. Totally fine. But yeah, that's everything. I thoroughly enjoyed the talk. A lot of people in chat did. So we can get to these questions. So we got a nice list of questions here for y'all. You've all touched on it a little bit at the beginning on how you came to be at Larian Studios. But if somebody was newer and they wanted to join, what kind of advice, I guess general advice, would you have on kind of getting a job in the industry, but then also coming to Larian if they wanted to be a part of it? Like what is kind of your process? What do you all like look out for usually?
Well, I can start, kind of. So basically, there is no fixed guideline, right? So whenever you apply to any company, you kind of just need to uh, impress us in a way, so to say. So if it's a more junior position, obviously we will be looking at your portfolio and would be comparing you to other candidates. So your portfolio needs to stand out. And same applies to a more senior position, right? Like we're looking not into just filling in the role, but we're looking into kind of people that can contribute and that can push our art further as well. So even on the interview, like I kind of frequently poke like, hey, like, have you played our previous games? What did you like? What you didn't like? And then if I see that the person like kind of can give feedback, and like can be honest and maybe is a little bit like, on the casual side and like, kind of like the joke around as well. So that's always a plus because yeah, at Larian we're kind of more like a team like family like team in a way. So we like to take people like for who they are and yeah, like more casual approach as well to things. So your portfolio is obviously very important, but it's also what you can bring to the team. Sometimes we see artists who are very focused on technical, and that's great. And if you can like kind of suggest pitch something that we could appreciate in like our future projects or on our previous ones. That's always great to hear.
So make sure to polish up on your jokes and your portfolio. Both things. Do a little bit of stand up and make sure that your art is great. Thank you for that question, Sienna. We have one from Curious Silverbolt, which I'm sure is their real name. As a future animator, what are the main programs you use to create your characters? I'm fixing to learn Maya, Synthesize, and more. So I guess you all can dabble in this a little bit on just kind of the programs that you use in your general everyday workflow.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like obviously ZBrush it needs to be your go-to thing, right? So you need to be able to handle ZBrush, you need to kind of feel comfortable in it, to be able to sculpt anything in there, because that's always going to be our main starting point, or where we basically make the best meshes that we can. But then we work with Maya, because all our scripts are in Maya. Everything works with Maya. Tech animation and the animators, they work with it. But if you, for example, you are now learning 3ds Max, or you are working in Blender, that does not mean that this would be an immediate no, or this is like a red flag, because these are pretty similar to each other, and they are content creation like software. So the important part here is that your fundamentals are there, because those skills you can transfer them, right? When I joined Larian, I had opened Maya. I could probably count on one hand how many times I had opened Maya. And of course, you're gonna struggle a bit, because you're like, okay, you're used to the navigation of like a different software. You're gonna kind of forget where the shortcuts are, or this or that. But that does not matter, because you know how to model and you know how to do the fundamentals. But yeah, I think maybe for animation, yeah, definitely Maya for sure. And then we, of course, yeah, we use so many different programs. We have ZBrush, we have Maya, we have Marvelous Designer, Marmoset or Substance Painter, all those things. So yeah, quite a bunch, I would say.
There was actually quite a few questions about what programs you use, but one that came up a lot was, well, not necessarily the programs, but tools. Do you all have like your own in-house tools that you make, or is everything kind of like what's in program is what we use? You don't have to tell us what they are and give them to us, but you can open the door a little bit. If everyone was very curious on specifically the fur pipeline. And then the tools kind of involved in that. And I know, Victoria, you were itching to speak even more. So, so I guess there's your own tools, and then kind of a little bit more on the fur pipeline.
Right. Well, I would say, well, generally we have our own in-house tools. Um, When it comes to the fur pipeline, I think that the way we kind of approach it is, as I said, like we have a little bit more of an automatic. Well, we place cards, right? So we don't work with. We didn't. Well, for Bardolus Gate, we didn't work for with anything else. Um, so the general idea is that when you place the fur cards manually, it's very hard to fake volumes of like fur because you're placing the cards one by one and you're kind of losing the track and focus of how the fur flows. So it's for us we did it in-house a bit more automatically, where you would sort of groom the planes the into the general shapes and then polish those afterwards. And then with that, you would put it in the engine and test back and forth a lot how it looks and then adjust it accordingly. And that's about it, I would say, when it comes to fur. I don't think there's all that much magic there. It's just a lot about the placement because of how many planes you're actually dealing with, how many cards there actually are. It's the biggest challenge when it comes to a creature completely covered in fur.
I have to say, one of my favorite things about talking to professional artists is a lot of times they're like magicians, right? So you just said there's not a lot of magic there, but from our perspective, there is. The magicians will be like, look, watch me make this card disappear. And they go, oh, it's not that hard. And you're like, it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Again, you saying that it's not a lot of magic. The magic, I think, is visually there. So just as an aside, and I'm sure people in chat can attest to this, it looks phenomenal, all the work that you put in. So JP, we've been leaving you alone. So now we're going to stop doing that. And we have a question for you. So when making Dragon's Wings, was a rig built around the dragon's anatomy, or did you have to build the anatomy to adhere to the rig? So I guess as you're going through kind of building out these creatures, at what point are you sending it to like test and all this stuff? Is it throughout the entire process? Or you like sculpt, you send it, they rig it, they go, actually, no, this is cooking, this is broken.
I didn't do any dragon, but I know the answer anyway.
Okay.
But like we're both in fact, because like I think we had like two dragons in Baldur's Gate 3. So the first one was probably done like freely, and then the other was made like on top of the first one. So both. I don't know what can I add about that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my other question. Oh, my camera is dying. Hang on, let me switch here, y'all. I'm so sorry. I guess my other question, follow up with that, would be with all of the creatures and the creatures that you worked on specifically. Your pipeline was very much kind of making and then sending to test, or was it just like designing it to the best of your ability and then making it look cool, and then they can figure it out when they need to rig it?
There's sometimes a little bit of back and forth, like if it really doesn't work, but usually, yeah, you work on your side, you design it how you think it look cool, and then you send it. And then sometimes they'll say, okay, like now the harm need to be like that. And then you just like, it's like more tweak, like technicalities, so they can build the rig easier. Like, but for the creature, yeah, you can do that. But for anything else that we do, like we have like a pre-decided rigs.
Awesome. Hang on. I'm switching here to my very beautiful camera that is very different. I apologize. My camera died over here, but we do have more questions. I guess the next one, a lot of people are curious about the pipeline and everything. I think from my perspective, one of the questions would be, you're working on these characters, right? And you guys kind of have like your rules and your setups as you're doing things and kind of following the structure. Was there any point in time that you also kind of have to remove like your own opinion about stuff, and like you're looking at it, maybe you're thinking like, oh, this looks amazing, but you also know you don't need to, you can't fall in love with it too much because there's other people that have to look at it and sign off? Or was everything that you were making like just kind of sending it out, you know, it looks how it looks, and kind of following the approval? So I guess my general question is like, how detached do you have to be to your own work as you're working on
I can answer that. I mean, in general, like there's, in my point of view, there's like multiple way to do things. Like there's not just one way to make a cool thing. At some point, somebody need to decide. So like, I'm not that attached because like somebody need to decide how it's gonna look. And because for me, like there's like a million possibility. So at this point, when somebody decide, then you follow along. And then there's always things you can add to this. This is just a general direction or specific stuff, that we want to hit, and then there's always place for creativity. I mean, like even if you do like even if you think you're super constrained, with millions of things, there's it's always gonna come from you, right? You're the one who doing the thing, so it's always gonna be like a part of creativity.
Maybe
Yeah,
to
I mean,
follow up on that
oh
as
yeah, go
well.
ahead.
Sorry.
No, no,
Like,
it's fine.
because Chris mentioned approvals, right? And I just wanted to like share a little bit about it. So we try to step away from the strict approval system where, an artist makes a creature, for example, like, I don't know, somebody's working on a dragon, and then like a lead and a director approves the dragon, and then this person is like, okay, hands off, I'm done, and I'm never gonna return to this dragon again. Sayonara. Um, so we try not to do that. Yeah, technically there are some approvals that you need to still hit, but we're trying to shift the narrative here to like, your work is not finished till like the approval somewhere on like our task tracking system is granted, but it's more of a, you're responsible now for this creature. You're now the artist who's going to be responsible of how the dragon looks in the game. And then we're shifting the mentality, we're trying to shift the mentality in our team of artists so that they feel attached to this dragon now. And then they're gonna look at it in the cutscene in the game, and then they would notice that the textures look kind of blank, and they would be, hey, I saw the cutscene. Should I like go in and improve the contrast on the dragon and like make it look a bit better? And we're like, yeah, you should. How much time do you need? Like, okay, 2 days? Yeah, sure, let's do that. And that really helps us because we did have some like situations in the past where when you have this strong approval system, then artists don't feel responsible. They don't feel very attached. Like it's their thing. Like they're the artists of this thing, and they can get like the credit for it technically. So they're getting all the credit, but also they're getting responsibility.
Yeah, I also feel like as an artist, and it's definitely it's a struggle point for a lot of people, right? You notice it with a lot of people that they have this point where you kind of need to let something go, but you're really attached to it, so you don't really want to. But I kind of agree. You need to be attached to it up to a certain degree because you need to care about how it's going to look. You need to care about what you're going to deliver. You need to be attached to what you're making because you kind of want it to look as good as it possibly can. But of course, at a certain point, of course, you need to be able to also let it go. If someone says like, okay, we will need to improve it or we will need to change it, you can fight for it. You can argument, like you can make arguments why you think it shouldn't. But sometimes, even though you might not see it at that time, you need to be a little bit detached because it will turn out to be better eventually. I think especially in the presentation you saw some before and after shots. I think at the time, if we had to redo something, sometimes we didn't want to because we were like, no, it's perfect the way it is. And then if you look at it now, you're like, okay, maybe it's good that we had this little moment of like detachment and decided to change it up a little bit. So
Yeah,
it's a delicate balance.
maybe we would not even be able to make it better on the spot, like, and just with the time, with the detachment and doing other things, and then you come back at it and you have this energy, revive energy, and ideas to how to improve it.
So shifting gears a little bit, this person asked directly for me to call them by their name, Rebecca, not by their screen name. So they're curious about what are the differences in terms of duties between senior character artist and a lead character artist and an art director, especially for Alena, who is an art director. Do you still have the possibility to work on models, or do you mainly do management work?
So again, like each team is very unique at Larian, right? So you as a lead and you as a director, you can kind of team up and establish the ground rules for your department. We have this opportunity, and you kind of are free to test what works for you and for your team and decide what's the best approach. So for us, we kind of like to work in a bit of a more flat structure. So we like to give opportunity for juniors, intermediates, and interns to work on cool things. Obviously, we are there for them, so we're not going to give them something that they would get really frustrated by. So if if an intern comes in and we're going to ask them to work on a dragon, yeah, that's not going to really work out. But if somebody comes in and then they show a lot of potential and they're excited and they're trying really excited to try new things, and we see that they might be able to handle it, then we would try increase the complexity and then really give them stuff that they really want to work on. And then in terms of like art directorship and leads, I mean, I can also give Luna also time to speak about the lead part. But for me as an art director, well, I was a lead on BG3 as well, right? So I try to allocate some time for me to also create and do some hands-on production. So it's there are multiple angles to it. So the first one is that you need to know what your team has to deal with. So whenever you spend too much time hands off, you kind of get detached from the pipelines and the processes. So you kind of just like believe your team without really experiencing it yourself if there is a problem, if something is like tedious or long. So that's a very important key. Second reason, I would say, it's also you get more respect from the team when you're also fixing bugs, you're also doing production, and then they kind of like relate to you on a more human level. That you're not just like a seagull that like comes in, and then flies away. So yeah, and then lastly, it's also for your own sanity, right? Because we're all artists, and then if we won't work on our stuff, then it kind of feels like sad and depressing at the end of the project for some people. So that's why, like, yeah, we kind of structure the team where we share the responsibility. Seniors get a lot of also like management tasks in a way, and we try to teach responsibility. We try to step away from checklists. We try to like kind of work as a team. Like have like small strike teams that like address some issues at the end of the project as well, and yeah, that's how we tackle it. So yeah, we try to find time essentially for our personal things, well, for art production as managers.
Yeah, I mean, we really like also giving people enough ownership that they can take responsibility of like an entire part or an entire feature or something like that. But yeah, like Alena said, basically, it's a bit of a balance because sometimes, yeah, you just need to do your management stuff. You just need to arrange things and make sure that everything works and everyone has what they need. But if you keep doing that for too long, you are going to start thinking about it in like an abstract way. You're going to have this issue that pops up and you need to discuss something or you need to find a compromise, and you're going to be like, oh well, maybe the team could do this, but because you're not actually the person that has to go in and figure it out, it starts to yeah, you sometimes you just need to be there and pick up your skills again and make sure that you know what you're talking about, so it doesn't become like just some random puzzle you're trying to solve. So it's very important to make sure that there's a balance between management and still keeping your skills.
Gotta stay sharp, as
Yeah.
the kids say. Okay, this one is from two separate people, so I'm just going to combine Robert's question and the Art of Bella's question. First part, I guess we'll go into how do you balance the realism in the faces going from a very stylized base to what you finally arrived at? Would you consider looking at proportions or main body landmarks to arrive at the unique BG3 style? And then in unison with that, I'll also add, were the facial expressions done with sculpted blend shapes or bones?
Mhm.
It's kind
Well,
of a
so
lot of questions there.
yeah, indeed. Well, I'll try to like keep it reasonable, the answer. So for the style, right? Like that was a lot of trial and errors essentially till we actually got something that we're happy with. In the beginning, we just aimed for as realistic as we could get. While we tried to keep some of the like character-like features, so like a little bit more push into a little bit more of an extreme, but trying still to like aim for as realistic as possible. And then we landed somewhere in the sweet spot. And then from there, we kind of used a couple of first characters as a reference. And then we like kind of just worked on them further. So it was so you can't really plan for that, right? Like you can't just say this is exactly how the character is gonna look, because lots and lots of things influence it. The poly count influence it, the shader that you're using influence it, the hairstyles that those characters are wearing, the skull shape that you came up with. So there is like lots and lots of like bits and pieces, and then you just like so you need what you need to do is you need to kind of like get that, okay, I like where this is going, so you need to set the direction, and you're like, this is the right direction, we're happy with this, and then you just need to push forward, right? So it's not going to be just like the singular target that you're reaching, it's going to be like a process, and it's going to be a road towards the final result. Like you could see some of the heads are kind of less cool, less interesting, or maybe not as like good looking as the others, and that might also indicate some of them are done a little bit earlier in the project, when we maybe didn't really have an idea what we were doing. Some of them didn't get into the game, like a few heads that Vicky showed in her slides, they didn't end up in the game because the direction, like, so they were kind of first steps in the right direction, and then we also cut them as like, okay, those are not worthy to end up in the final product, but we started from there, right, and they helped us move forward. And then for the blend shapes and the emotions, no, we didn't have any blend shapes. We didn't sculpt poses for emotions. They were basically, it's just like a tech animation department. We basically kind of had like a bone animation on them. So like in terms of a pose, we had a few character artists collaborating with tech animation department. So there was a little bit of a back and forth for the origin characters mostly. But obviously for generic characters, it was mostly like just same pose within like race, gender, and retargeted on all of the rest.
Very cool. Everyone is also really interested in how your team communicates with each other on a day-to-day basis. Do you all use like Discord or Slack or Line? If you know, you know. WhatsApp. What do you all use to communicate with each other?
We use Slack for day-to-day communication, and then for meetings, we usually have Google Meets or just huddles in Slack. And so we can have lots of custom emojis there, so it's great. I totally recommend it.
Well, so then that leads into the next question from Sam, which so utilizing Slack, utilizing talking to your team, your communication, giving them kind of responsibility and ownership over certain creatures and stuff like that, with such a big game and development time being long. How do you keep the team motivated and keep them on track for the final goal? So you've alluded to like certain ways that you can do for like management, but how do you keep the team motivated? And then I think for JP and Wiki as well, and I guess for all of you, how do you also keep yourself motivated on a day-to-day? Again, it's a long pipeline for a game, so keeping other people motivated and keeping yourself motivated is very important. How'd you do it?
Well, I think it's a team effort for sure, because we have regular scrums where people post their work and they motivate each other. Because whenever you see that somebody made something really amazing, they also want to do something really amazing, and then all of a sudden, they are motivated to like improve their own work. I would say another thing that I think helps is the community. So our early access and the response that we've been getting, our patches, and then the response we've been getting from patches, it makes insane amount of difference. It inspires conversations, it inspires features, and we kind of like feel more alert, so to say, right? We're more exposed to the community, and we love our community. It's the best thing. We see all of the amazing fan art. Now, like our entire office is covered in fan art, and that also actually has been, motivating and inspiring. You're like kind of feeling down, you're like going for a coffee, and it's like you see the entire wall covered in like a Starin and Caroline, like God knows who. Yeah, it's been really great.
I think for me personally, indeed, the community is a very big part, mostly because like I had it many times that I would be like, oh my God, I'm so tired like of like trying to make the hair look good, or like, sometimes you would get stuck in a wall because, like something's not working, and like it's already like late and you kind of want to stop working, and then it's like, but just one more hairstyle, like the community will appreciate it, like they're gonna be happy that they have that one more choice. So you just like kind of rise up, I guess, and push through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think especially for the hair patch, I vividly remember all of us like down in the trenches fighting for our life, doing hairstyles, doing highlights, this and that. And we were so done with it. We were so like, yeah, I mean, it has ups and downs, right? So we got to a point where we were, I think, pretty demotivated, but we were like, we need to push through. And then when the patch finally dropped, and you see everyone respond to it, you see people go insane, and are like, oh my God, highlights, oh wow, they did this, oh that's so amazing, or they show like the mods they made, and it's like, wow, this is so cool. And then you have like this, I don't know, like this exhale, just like, yes, this is why we did it, like this is why, who we did it for. And it's nice to see that. It's nice to see that people were really excited about something you made, and it also motivates you to uh, go the little extra mile a bit further. Because like, for example, the cortege outfit, I really wanted players to be able to pick it up, and originally it wasn't really, I think it was like wasn't really planned because we had so much stuff to do, but I was like, no, we have to do it anyway. We have to do it anyway. So we just got it done, and then everything was done, and we basically said like, look guys, it's already in there. We just need to like drop it. It's fine. We should just do it. They're gonna love it. And then when we already had like Catherick's outfit and Cortesh's outfit, then was like, okay, well, what about the last one? And normally people would maybe be like, okay, we don't have to do this. You don't technically have to do this, but we did know that like people would appreciate it if we went like a little bit further. So I really think the community and like how positive they are, how nice they are, how passionate they are about everything, it's like a two-way street, because it also motivates us again to do things that we know they will appreciate.
So yeah, definitely for Orion armor, for Gorta's armor specifically, like yeah, you can definitely drop Luna a thank you. It was all her.
I went completely rogue. Yeah, I shouldn't have done it, but I was like, okay, let's go. We're doing this. We're sneaking it in.
So then, finally, I think the question that we're probably most curious about, and it doesn't have to be your all time. I'm sure all of you are going to be like, they're all my babies. We love all of them. But we're very curious on, I guess, your favorite origin character and your favorite monster. Why don't you start with your favorite monster first? Because I feel like that'll be less, of an issue. So whoever wants to start, very curious. Your favorite origin character, favorite monster.
I don't know.
This is
Monster
super
is
difficult. I don't know.
difficult. Origin character is Lazo for sure, but creature, I don't know.
I mean, okay, I have a creature maybe that was like very interesting. I didn't work on it myself. It was Toll Collector in Act 2. It was just a very interesting structure that we had to kind of establish for it, because it was like this part that would like fall off, and the coins and the whole story behind it. I remember we like a combat designer, lead combat designer, just pitched it to me, and we're like, yeah, okay, how do we make it work? And then like, okay, we're gonna do this, and like that's how we're gonna like assemble it and a little bit hack it together. And it's like, damn, it works, you know. That's all good. So yeah, I guess Soul Collector for me as a creature.
Yeah, I think for me, it's hard to say, right? But I think for origin character, probably also Lae'zel. I'm sorry that I'm also picking the same answer, but just I went through her romance as well, and she's like my girl now. I love Lae'zel, like #1 fan. So definitely Lae'zel, best girl. And then for creature, probably I think the surgeon. I really like the vibes, the way it also moves, how like if you like small spoiler maybe if you get to that part of the game and you have like a whole build up, you have the whole environment, and then you have the surgeon there, it kind of turns a little bit in a more like dark game than it does in like a lot of other places. So I really liked that creature for sure.
I know Vicky's favorite one. That's not a monster. It's a cat.
Yeah, well, I don't. Well, I was gonna say Tressum since you know since it's creatures, but yeah. Well, I mean, should I tell the story? I don't know.
Yes, yes, tell the story.
So basically, the cats in the game were based on. Well, the reference used were my own cats, and sadly, one of them passed away during a BG3 production, and I was really heartbroken, and it was absolutely horrible because my cats are kind of like family to me. And the writers chose to add her into the game, and she gets to live in Baldur's Gate 3 forever, and well, in Baldur's Gate forever, and it's just yeah, it's really great thing to have and to see. And you know, when I play the game, I'm always kind of just slightly crying when I see her. So yeah, it's very heartwarming, I guess. But origin characters for me, it would probably actually be Shadowheart because I just find her really adorable.
I can't believe you would still pick her as your favorite after all the times you had to change the
See,
hairstyle.
actually, I was now that you mention it, before I played the game, like I absolutely hated her just because of her stupid hair. The amount of times we changed her hairstyles, we even like held a voting thing in house. It's just like her fringe is just was just gives me heebie-jeebies. But yeah, I after playing the game, I gotta say, while I really wanted to kill her at first, she kind of became my favorite. So I'm not gonna lie.
It's a love-hate relationship.
Yeah,
You
pretty
all
much.
been through so much together, you know. You can't replicate that kind of bond that you make through trauma. So I think that's really what happened here.
Well, nobody mentioned Carla for some reason, so I'm gonna mention it. So yeah, I guess. Well, I think during my first playthrough, that's the person I romanced, even though I kind of also went for Shadowheart at first, and I was like, okay, maybe, and then I'm like, nah, Carla is just too sweet. So yeah, that's her for me.
I really liked Garlic, but I think that was the first time that I personally had a character where I saw the design change and I got attached to like the first design and then it changed. So for me, it was really difficult because like when I joined, all the other origin characters were like done. So that was the first time I had an experience like that. And for me, I still love her, but it's like, it's not the same. It's not the same.
Gale also changed, and
Gale also
Shadowheart
changed.
changed, but anyhow.
You changed, Karlak. You used to be. I don't even recognize you anymore.
Still love all of them.
You know, I mean, it's been such a pleasure. I know it's been a pleasure for everyone watching. If we want to stay up to date with Larian and kind of know what's coming up next, where do we stay up to date with y'all? I'm assuming at Larian Studios.
Yeah, absolutely. Follow Larian Studios on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, wherever you want. We're
have a
always there for you.
we have a new YouTube channel, right? It's like how
Yes.
does it call? I don't know, like
Channel
but
from hell.
Channel from hell. Yeah.
yeah, that looks super cool. I'm
And
Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
a great
follow
name.
it.
give it a follow.
Sometimes we learn stuff like in those like things, like when Sven talk, like sometimes we learn stuff ourselves, like about like what's going on. You know?
Very cool. So stay up to date with you. If you at home have any questions for us, Noman, go ahead and check out our website, noman.edu. Send us a question at info@noman.edu. And I mean, thank you all so much. You're gonna come back, and if you come to LA, you're coming to visit us, right? You're gonna come check out
Yes.
our campus. Okay, open
Definitely.
invite. So you just call us, you let us know. We'd love to see y'all. Thank y'all so much for doing the stream. Thank you for watching. I'll see y'all next time.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you everyone so
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Bye bye.